Hi everybody in Periscope world. Come on in. For those of you who are watching this back, my replay viewers, thank you for watching back as well. And if you're here during the live broadcast, I'm not exactly sure how this works, but I think you can swipe one way or the other. Swipe left or swipe right and share it with your friends if you think this would be a topic that is pertinent to other people that you know. So, do we have people coming in just so I know if this is working? Is this working? You guys are here? Okay, cool. Very cool. Okay, so this is Pippa. Hi, little girl. Oh, no, don't lick my nose. Okay, so Pippa is not the topic, shockingly, of today's conversation. This is a conversation. It's not me just presenting material. I actually wanted to just pick up where I left off. The last time, it was about a week ago, that we talked about your scrapbooking goals for 2016. And you guys shared on social media specifically what your goals are. And you told me what you had in mind, you told me what you're hoping for. And in last week's Periscope, which if you missed it, we'll get it on YouTube so that you can see that, I talked about those things. I talked about your goals, and I shared some of my own thoughts and insights, and so that's what we're going to do today. I'm going to zip through this, and I'm going to hopefully cover as much as I can, and I want you to engage in the conversation. If you have a question that goes along with what we're talking about, please ask it. I have Race here and Tony's here, and they're watching for your questions, and they'll let me know, and they'll interrupt me when I need to be interrupted.
Someone just did ask a question if you're using the same color album for all of your books, all of your 8x8 books.
It's a great question. So last year, if you aren't already familiar with what I did last year, there's a giant blog post that explains in detail everything that I did and all of my tips associated with it. And you can go to beckyhiggins.com, go to the blog, and we have a nice little search feature there, and you're going to search for how I documented 2015 and why I'm doing it again in 2016. You don't have to type in the whole title, but that post has a ton of information. Now, having said that, in 2015, I used the Project Life app, which is coming for Android next month, currently available just for iOS, but coming next month for Android as well. We're so excited. But I use the app 100% entirely for the documentation of my family's life. So that is what I did. And I printed all of those pages, and I put those 8x8 pages in 8x8 albums. It took up 2 because I decided to be a little gung-ho. I was kind of excited about last year and being able to document so easily and in the palm of my hand and with the tips of my fingers. And so I did so many layouts, not just the weekly documentation, but extra ones as well. I put them all into gray colored 8x8 albums. We have gray, black, and red 8x8 albums with more colors coming. I think in the spring.
Yes, and we have some patterned albums too.
Oh yes, yeah, those are solid faux leather patterns. We have several, several 8x8 albums, and they're in the shop, right, Tony? So check that out at beckyhiggins.com. And to answer the question, to get back to that, I did gray. So it's split into 2 albums, and I used gray for both of those. So going forward, it's kind of unique because going forward, I don't know if I'm going to put my app pages in albums because I know that I'm going to be able to print it as a photo book anyway, and that's my ultimate goal with all of it.
Someone just asked if you use the app for your kids' albums, why or why not?
So great question. Yes and no. Right now, what I've decided to do, and keep in mind, I've been scrapbooking for most of my life, so this is something that I do all the time. I have so much real estate taken up in my home by albums. So I allow myself to evolve and process and take breaks when I need to, and I'm not taking breaks from documenting because I'm always doing it, but what I'm doing is I'm actually like looking at my family yearbook, and I'm thinking about how I weekly document, and I'm using the app to do that, and that's great and good. So because this is my first full year of being able to do that, I've actually kind of like let my kids' albums, which are physical 12x12 albums, just kind of chill out and hang out. My kids are enjoying them, they look at them, but in no way are they caught up, because catching up to me is very, very easy with Project Life. So I'm not stressed out about how far behind I am. These are terms that we use in scrapbooking. So getting behind and catching up and all those things that I think tend to stress people out can be so much easier if you decide that you want to catch up with Project Life. So what I'm doing is letting the things just kind of sit there to the side, and I am just letting the kids' albums kind of chill out while I process. And when I add more pages to my kids' albums, I will decide whether I want to physically throw things together or if I want to use the app. That's a great question. Okay, the puppy's eating the rug, so we got to keep an eye on her.
If you hear snaps,
yeah. If you hear Tony snapping, Pippa. Oh, I mean, no.
Okay, don't say her name when you're...
You're not supposed to say a puppy's name when you're disciplining. No. All right, so let's hop back to the goals that you guys shared. Am I going to do that? Any questions? Am I missing anything?
Here's a big one. I'll just throw it out there. 15 years of photographs. 15 to 20 years of photographs. Where do I start?
Oh, okay. So this is how I'm going to answer that question. How you start is such an individual, personal thing. And so it's really hard for me to speak to a general audience when I don't know you, the person asking the question. I want to know you, and I want to be able to sit down with you for 10 minutes and kind of talk about your specific process, lifestyle, thoughts, what your end goals are. Like, all of this is actually really personalized. And so I guess if I were to answer it generically and you have 15 or 20 years worth of pictures, I just need to know, and please answer the question if you can, are these printed pictures that are already like sitting in boxes, or are these digital pictures? If you can answer that one question for me, I can try to answer the question. I know you're typing. I know you're answering. No pressure, hurry. Okay, so while you're answering that question, if you're able to tell me that, the physical prints versus digital, that kind of makes a difference, because if you have physical prints, then you're really just taking them and physically sorting them, and you're going to kind of go from there. If you have digital, then it's like, well, what do you want out of this? She never answered the question.
I'm assuming this is her. She said no, major digital. The majority are digital.
Okay, so let's go with that then. If majority of your pictures from the past 15, 20 years are digital, and a lot of you can probably relate to that. And let's say you are in the same situation as this viewer, and she does not know where to begin. The first thing that you want to ask yourself is, what is the end result that I'm going for here? And you guys know, if you follow me for a while, you know I always love Stephen Covey's principle that he's ingrained in all of us, which is begin with the end in mind. And I really think that that translates so well into scrapbooking. So as whoever you are right now in your life and whatever your life situation is, when you think kind of long term and you think about what your end result is, that is going to be specifically what directs you and how you go from here. So for example, if your end goal is, let's say you've got a few kids like me, okay? You're raising your family, you've got no scrapbooks from the past, well, I have scrapbooks, but let's say from the past 15, 20 years, you have no scrapbooks, you're really just beginning. Well, if your end result is that you want each child to leave home when they're 18 years old or whatever, and they go off into the world, and you want each of them to have 1 or 2 albums that are theirs that they get to keep, that will steer you in knowing what to do next. That's a very different scenario than if your long-term goal is, I'm not worried about the kids, I just want to get those albums put together for my family, and those albums will just stay right here. There's a difference. And so that's why I say it's so personal, because if your end result is that you want each child to have an album or 2, well then that just means that you focus on one child at a time, and you go through all of the pictures digitally or printed, either way, and then you gather and you sort and you organize and you decide how to categorize this process. But the key part is, if I want my child leaving home with only 1 or 2 albums, let's say 2 albums, well, that means you're paring down quite a bit. And that means that you're not trying to scrapbook everything, right? You're just giving them a sampling of their childhood. So on the other hand, if you're doing family albums, well, then it's not about all the specific detailed pictures of just the child. You're trying to capture your family's, the essence of your family. Someone's biting my toes. And so that really makes a big difference. So kind of begin with the end in mind, not kind of. Be very intentional about beginning with the end in mind. Think about your long-term goals and then go from there. Like I said, if some of your questions that are kind of more broad, I can answer so much better if we could spend one-on-one time together. I've got plans for that. All right, so let's go through some more of these, if I can. Is that cool? All right, so, okay. So one of you said that one of your goals for 2016 is to be more consistent with printing. So this sounds like somebody who's doing Project Life in the physical format, which is awesome. So if you're doing that, then printing specifically is the part that gets people stuck sometimes, because they don't have a rhythm, they don't have a groove, they don't know where to print or whatever. Lots of great printing options out there. You can print online, you can print with your local printer. You want to choose a printer that's going to do good quality for you. And if any of you who are watching right now want to weigh in and suggest your favorite printer that's online that applies to everybody watching, feel free to do that. But what my one tip or a bit of advice that I would give on that is, if your goal really is to be more consistent with printing, then you need to make that consistency actually happen. And for a lot of you who have set goals in 2016, and for those of you who have experience with setting goals and following through with them, it's not true for everybody, but for a lot of people, a lot of us, if it's not written down, it doesn't happen. So if you have a goal to be more consistent, then perhaps you want to add it to your calendar that on the 15th of every month, and I'm just making this up, on the 15th of every month, or every second Tuesday, or whatever, you are putting a note in your calendar that you are going to print your pictures from the past few weeks or whatever, okay? So that would be my tip on that. Okay, someone else said that their goal is to find time to go through her boxes of pictures and project life them. Project life is a verb sometimes. So, yeah, that is great, and that's a huge, huge task. And so there's actually someone else who shared what her goal is that kind of relates to this. She said that my goal is to make time at the end of each week to make at least one layout. So great advice, right? And that's what I've done. That's what I'm going to continue to do, is every Sunday night is my time when I do that, where I actually scrapbook and I pull my pages together. And it doesn't have to be specific to the method you use, whether it's physical, digital, or with the app. Kind of calendaring it out and planning for it is definitely very effective. Okay, someone else said, my goal is to just start. Okay, so that's kind of huge too, because if you've never done it before, you just have to begin. And I've already spoken to that, but this is the one thing I'm going to add. Getting started is the hardest part, by far. Once you get into it, there's nothing that will challenge you quite like challenging you to just get started. I really feel that way. I feel that way about a lot of things. It's kind of like going to the gym for the first time in 7 years, right? Or maybe you have other habits that you're trying to develop, or kick for that matter, and the first step of starting really is daunting and very intimidating. So here's my one bit of advice that I would give to those of you who really are like, I know what I need to do. I've heard about Project Life. I know that it's simple. I just need to get started. This would be my one point of advice. For the beginning of this process, keep it simple. If you Google Project Life, you don't come straight to us. Let's just say you go looking on Pinterest or whatever, or Instagram. You're going to see so much inspiration, and it's awesome. Tons of it. So much inspiration, so much creative inspiration. The problem with that can be, for newbies, for people who are novice and really just need to get started and they haven't begun, is that they might quickly be intimidated, quickly be inundated by, okay, so it's this big creative process, and it doesn't have to be that way. So if you're just beginning, I would advise you to just start simple. What does that mean? With the physical product of Project Life, you are slipping your photos into pockets, you're slipping your journaling cards into pockets, and that is literally, for real, all you have to do. There's no cutting, there's no gluing, there's no embellishing. You don't have to do these things. They're not requirements for scrapbooking. I'm gonna say that one more time. Embellishing, cutting, gluing, hammering, distressing, painting, all of these things are not a requirement for scrapbooking. Can I hear a hallelujah or an amen? Tony.
So yes, less is more.
No, I meant for you. You're supposed to go
me.
hallelujah.
Oh, hallelujah. Sorry. I'm concentrating.
I know. What?
Somebody said, don't let perfect get in the way of done.
Yes, sister. Preach it. Don't let perfect get in the way of done. Who said that?
I don't know.
It's probably too late. Whoever said that, thank you.
Oh,
don't
hallelujah. Amen's hallelujah. Keep it simple. Amen.
Right. A to the men. Keep it simple. And I really, truly encourage that. Now, for those of you who are really creative in your scrapbooks, that is not poo-pooing on creativity. I'm a very creative person myself. Love the creativity. I'm talking specifically to somebody who's never scrapbooked before, who I can tell you right now, if you've never started and you dive into this thing thinking it's supposed to be creative, you will burn yourself out. That's not 100% guarantee, but it's like 98.7 guarantee. You will burn yourself out. I've seen it. I have felt it. I've seen people come in and leave this hobby real fast. And it's because they have this idea and they get influenced by everything they see on social media that is supposed to be super creative. Don't do that to yourself. Next goal. All right. Okay. Okay. My goal is to make time at the end of each week. Oh, I already said that one. Yep, that's what I do as well. Make time at the end of each week to get it done. If you do weekly documentation. All right, so someone else says, I'm going to let go of the traditional scrapbooking that has slowed me down and try Project Life for my older books that need to get done. So here's what I want to say to that. Obviously, welcome to Project Life, right? That's the beauty of Project Life. It's helping people who have never scrapbooked before and those who were scrapbookers and then they fell away from this hobby, right? Because they got too busy, too overwhelmed, it's all too much, it's too expensive, it takes too much of my time, it's taking up all this space in my house. Project Life says no, 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 nope, it doesn't have to be that way. It doesn't, okay? So if you're new, welcome to the world of scrapbooking because that's what it is. But this is my thought on that. This person said they want to let go of traditional scrapbooking. That's her choice because she's realizing that keeping it simple is the way that she's going to get it done. Now, for those of you who love and embrace the creativity, by all means, stick with it because whatever floats your boat is going to be what keeps you motivated, and that's how you're going to have greater success with scrapbooking. Know what I'm saying? So if you love the creativity and it's working for you and you're getting your pages done like you want to, then don't listen to me when I'm saying and preaching, keep it simple, keep it simple. That's not for you. That message is not for you. My message for you is do what works for you and have fun with that. But the person who is saying that they want to let go of traditional and try Project Life, my challenge to that person and anyone else who is thinking that way is to try not embellishing. Just try it. The reason I want you to try it with just a layout or 2 layouts is because I want you to feel what it's like to make a scrapbook page in less than 5 minutes. Because if you're a traditional scrapbooker, you don't know what that is, right? You know what I'm saying? If you're a traditional scrapbooker and you're being creative and you're embellishing and you're spending all this time on your layouts, like I did for 15 years, then you don't know what it is to put a 5-minute layout together. It will be, and I mean this completely with all sincerity, it will be an adjustment. And it may not be an adjustment that you like. You don't know until you try. Try it. Try doing it without any fuss and just see if you like it. Just try it, okay? All right, next thing. My goal is to use the Project Life app exclusively so that it frees up time to make other crafting projects. I thought that was pretty cool. I support any way that people want to document life because documenting life is awesome, period. Doesn't matter about your approach. I happen to think that Project Life is a great system for people who are overwhelmed and who want more simplicity. But the fact that you're trying to stick with the app allows you to be creative in other areas. The one thing I wanted to say to that is that's my story. So in 2015, it's the first year, the first full calendar year, that I completely documented our family story 100% using the Project Life app. That was the first year I've ever done anything like that because it's always been with physical product. And it was my favorite year of documenting for all the reasons that I outlined in that big blog post. Like I said, you can see that on my website at beckyhiggins.com. But the thing about that, and to the point that you made, is I felt like I could be really, really creative in all the other areas of my life. I love scrapbooking and I love creativity, but I'm not in a place in my life right now where I have an interest in being creative in my scrapbooks from a tangible standpoint. I'm creative in the pictures that I take and the way that I document my story, but putting it together, snappity snap, get it done. That's how I feel. That's what works for me. And I have felt really highly creative in other areas of my life as a mother, as a businesswoman, as a friend. And so, power to you, sister. Okay. Am I going to, in my interruptions, questions? Okay, I'm just going to keep going. All right, so I'll get through the last few and then we'll wrap up here, and I want you to be able to ask any other questions. My goal is to actually do Project Life this year. I've been following for a long time and now I've gotten supplies. I've tried to start several times. I have a handful of pages done and that's it. But this year I'm going to do weekly app pages and then have a photo book printed at the end of the year. I just love that and wanted to read it because I don't have any other tips to add. My first thought was, man, if you relate to her and you've tried this, you've started it and you get stuck. You tried it again and you can't do it. You're stopping, you're starting. Then really, truly read that blog post that I was telling you about. It's called How I Documented 2015 and Why I'm Doing It Again in 2016. And I will walk you through what has made my 2015 so successful in terms of my family documentation and my scrapbooking. Okay, someone else said, my mom has an iPhone and has downloaded the Project Life app. My goal is to encourage her and my brother to document the family objects we all have and what makes them special. That is so cool. That is so specific. You have thought of something that is truly beginning with the end in mind. So you're not just saying, I want a scrapbook, I've got to get started. You're saying, you know what would be cool? Is my mom and my brother, my family can participate with me, and we can each participate in doing our part to document the things in our life that are significant to us, that are special to us, that are part of our family history even. That is such a, it's like a very thoughtful, especially when you think of the long term and the posterity that will receive this album in 100 years. What a thoughtful project. Definitely gets my wheels spinning. All right, two more.
I'm going to throw a quick question out.
Please.
Someone's mentioned wanting more ideas for how to take better pictures, more interesting pictures.
Okay.
So you mentioned
Yes.
Instagram photo tips.
Yep. Okay, so great question. That is definitely part of the creativity that I have felt more in my life because I don't put it into like physical product. And that is the idea of how do you document life so it's interesting? How do you take pictures that are actually pretty to look at? Man, I could recommend a couple of people to follow on Instagram that the way that they take pictures of their family and their life and their home is just beautiful. Now, there are so many ways that you can take better pictures. There's everything from lighting to composition to the subject matter to white space. I mean, there's so many tips and tricks. So this is my one answer, and Tony was just alluding to this. We share tips. It's called #BHPhotoTips on Instagram and Facebook. And if you click on or tap on BHPhotoTips, the hashtag, you're going to see our library of what I've already shared so far. Most of those, 90% of those, are my own pictures, and I am not a professional photographer. I'm just a girl with a camera who loves documenting life, who's been doing this and living it and breathing it for 20 years. And so the photo tips are from a very like real life, ordinary perspective, but they will help you as they've helped me to just try something different and photograph life a little bit more interestingly. So #BHPhotoTips. See you there. We also have photography tips that we're going to be bringing more of to the blog. So if you're not already reading the blog, make sure that you check that out at beckyhiggins.com. All right? Okay, great question. I just have two more that I was going to read. Rhonda Smith-Moore said, my goal is to teach my new daughter-in-law, congratulations, how to scrapbook so that she can document the story of my newest granddaughter who will arrive in April. So major congratulations to that family. And I love your goal because it's not actually about your own scrapbooks. I think we're all thinking about what we want to do better in our own scrapbooking and documenting, which is awesome. I definitely have that on the brain. But the fact that you want to share that with someone else, specifically your daughter-in-law, is beautiful. So I wish you all the best with that. And I just wanted to share that one because I hope it gets some of you thinking, like, especially those of you who are really experienced, if you've got this down and you just know what you're doing, it's probably a good time to help someone else who doesn't know where to begin, to know how they can document their story. And remember to help them keep it simple. You might be super creative in your scrapbooks, and that is awesome, but that's not for everybody. And if you're trying to teach a new person and you emphasize the creativity, you might lose them very quickly. If you emphasize simplicity, you probably will gain a scrapbooker for life right there. All right, last one I'm going to read, and then I'll take a last few questions, and then we'll head out. I'm so glad that you guys are here, seriously. My primary goal will be to say goodbye. Oh, brace yourself for this one. To all the traditional scrapbooking supplies in my craft room. Oh my gosh. Okay, so that is awesome. And I'll tell you why, because I've been going through major decluttering in my own personal life, and it feels so remarkable. Not everybody needs to do such massive decluttering, but if you are like me and this person who shared this, it's time to declutter. You've acquired a lot of stuff. It's time. So she is specifically, again, I'm not saying this is for everybody, but she is specifically saying that she is ready to say goodbye to all those traditional supplies. Don't do this if you don't feel ready. I bet some of you feel ready. I bet some of you feel like it is time to get rid of the stuff that I'm not using. And may I make a suggestion? Donate. Okay, this stuff doesn't belong in the trash can. You have your local schools, you have shelters, you have hospitals, you have things, places, organizations, in families, friends, in your communities that would love to have your stash of cardstock and stickers and embellishments and all of those things. So please definitely check into that. Okay, I've officially finished going through this list, and it was a great list to read through and for me to process. So last minute or two, any questions that you guys have, and then we will head out.
Somebody did a while back ask how to organize her digital pictures.
Okay, so that is a loaded question because there's just not a straight answer for that. This is what I'm going to recommend. So, okay, I'm trying to think of the best way to point. What's the name of Kara's blog?
The Caroline and Co.
Is it?
Kara, she's listening.
Kara, I want to recommend the blog post series that you did. So while she's typing that in, Kara, what we're asking for is the actual name of your blog. Okay, so Kara is our in-house photographer, and she's our visual manager. Phenomenal. And she's beautiful and smart and funny. I know she's in here, so. Okay, so Kara is all those great things, right? And she is a professional photographer by trade. That's how I got to know her. She photographed our family, and she's amazing. So she recently did a series on her blog, which we're going to put in the actual name of the blog, and it was broken into 3 parts because it was so massive in its information. But it is one way that you could follow and read her process and advice on how she organized all of her digial media, and it's pretty packed with information.
It's Kara Lane, so it's Kara,
KaraLayne.com, and then you click on the blog from there. Okay, so KaraLayne.com. Got it?
Yes.
Right? I said that right? Okay, so there you go. And that is really like, it is, we've already been going for probably 20 minutes now, so that's a loaded enough question that I probably shouldn't go into any more detail, but I do have a solution for you, and it's the blog that I just sent you to.
So we asked about more kids coming in the app, which they do.
Oh, always, yeah.
All the time.
Yes, so every month we do an update in the app, in the Project Life app, and that update usually includes like bug fixes and other little updates, but always new collections. We do this about once a month, and we just released that update. Just went live, it feels like before the weekend,
Like
just a few days ago or
Yeah.
something. Yeah, so really recently, and so go check it out. And make sure that you turn on your notifications with the Project Life app, because we're going to be sharing more tips and things for you through the app directly. But also, if you're not already following on Instagram, I'm the same everywhere, Becky Higgins LLC. So if you follow me on Instagram or Facebook, it's not Twitter because there's not enough space there, but I share a lot of Project Life app tips. That's a hashtag. Hashtag Project Life app tips. Like really good tips. Things that you don't have to know a lot of bells and whistles to make quick pages, but there are certain things that if you know them, you're like, oh my gosh, that changed my life. Okay, so check that out. Any other questions? Are we good? Yeah. Okay, so peace out. Thank you for being here, and we'll see you again next time. Bye, guys.